Hi cuties! Oh my god, I had such a reading month. This April, I read the most books I have ever read in one single month. In total, 25.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I read a lot. Granted, there were 4 readathons happening this entire month. I had the month-long Magical Owls readathon. I had Dewey's 24-hour readathon. We had the Stay Home Reading Rush, and I had a Tumblr 24-hour readathon. So yeah, I'm going to try to go very fast with these books because there is so much, and there are so many good ones this month. I had really good luck with books this month. So let's get started. First off, we have Harbor for the Nightingale by Kathleen Baldwin. This is the 4th book in the Strange House series, a series that I absolutely love. This was no exception to that rule. I love this. This was Maya's story, and I don't want to spoil a lot for you guys, but it is an alternate history set in the time during Napoleon, and he is still a threat to England. The Strange House girls are all like lady spies or training to be spies. Maya has kind of a superpower where she can be very persuasive, and she's also kind of synesthetic where she can kind of read people through music, and it's very interesting how it's portrayed with her. She's a really cool character. I'm really glad we got to see something from her perspective. I did give it 4 stars, and the only reason I took away some stars is because I did not get enough Tess and Ravencroft, because that's just what I want to read more of a lot. We did get a really cute scene for them, so that was nice. But I thought the love interest in this was really interesting. He's very different than the other ones. That's one thing that I really like in Kathleen Baldwin's writing, is that she gives you very unique protagonists and very unique love interests for them. There's no 2 of the same guy and 2 of the same girl, so she has a really wide range of personalities that I really appreciate, because sometimes when you read romance by one author, it kind of feels like the same story over and over again. It's not that way with these. We're gonna have another book coming out. I don't know when it's coming out, but we get Sarah's story. Yes! And next up, I got to Wayward Son by Rainbow Rowell. I really enjoyed this. I listened to it on audiobook, which I didn't like as much. I read the first Carry On just as a physical book, and I really enjoyed it, but I don't think I like this one as much as an audiobook. I don't know why, but I feel like I had my own idea of how they sounded in my head, and it just didn't match up with the audiobook. That being said, I liked this a lot. I liked that we really saw the aftermath of kind of being a chosen one and no longer being a chosen one, because the big battle's over, right? So now we're going on a road trip through America, and I love the difference between American magic and the British magic, because all of the magic they have is based on common speech and phrases that are commonly used. And of course, between America and England, they're very different. We have very different slang here, so a lot of their own spells don't work anymore. And it's kind of funny just to see that cultural clash and their own little culture shock while going through everything. Even with the drama that happened, I was really happy that they weren't like, you know, sunflowers and daisies and rainbows and sunshine with their relationship. I liked that there was now this new struggle, and it's not over yet. It's not over. There's gonna be another one. It's gonna be called Any Way the Wind Blows, and I'm dying. I'm so excited. I love this series. Some people haven't really liked this one as much as Carry On, but I liked it a lot. It was very real, and that's what I appreciate about Rainbow Rowell, is that she writes very real characters in a very unreal and fantastical setting. It is extremely hot in here right now. I'm sorry I have to turn on my fan. Hopefully that doesn't kill the audio so much, but I am sweating. It's also really humid today because we're about to get rain. Should not have filmed with my hair down. Okay, next up I have a duology that I did not realize I was gonna love so very much. I read them as audiobooks, but that is Daughter of the Pirate King and Daughter of the Siren Queen by Trisha Levenseller. These are freaking hilarious. Oh my god. I'm not a huge fan of pirate stuff. That's my sister's thing. I was never into Pirates of the Caribbean, was never one of the pirate girls, okay? I thoroughly enjoyed this. This is a story about Alosa, who is the daughter of the Pirate King. She is to be feared. She has a secret power, and she lets herself get kidnapped by these enemy pirates because she's looking for a fancy treasure map. But lo and behold, the brothers who run this enemy pirate ship, well, one of them kind of is he's different than the rest. And so there's this kind of enemies to lovers, fake interest that turns into real interest because they're both playing the game. We have captor and captive, or at least fake captive. They play a lot of fun mind games that is kind of innuendo-y and very fun. Grows into this really great kind of relationship that also isn't a thing because they're enemies, and it's just a wild fun time on the ocean dealing with sirens and magic maps and treasure and pirates, and it's just really, really good. Guys, you need to read these. I definitely recommend the audiobooks. It has a really great narrator and it's just so good. They're very short reads too. They're only like, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours each, and it's real easy to get through them. Highly recommend. This was one I thought I was gonna be like, it's gonna be 3 stars. No, 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 no. This is way high up there. It's nearly 5 stars because I wanted more. Next up, we have Artemis by Andy Weir. I have read The Martian and I really enjoyed The Martian, and I was really kind of worried that this would be an identical story. It is not. It is very different. It's set in the future where we already have kind of a resort on the moon. We have an entire space station there, but it's more of a tourist attraction. So our main character, Jazz, is a smuggler, and she is the daughter of a, gosh, what is he? A welder? He does something mechanical that she didn't want to be a part of, so she smuggles and wants to, you know, get rich. She gets into this kind of deal to just do a good smuggling job when everything goes to hell. She ends up way in over her head with all the conspiracies going on and the danger going on, and it was just really, really fun kind of mafia in space, and it's just really fun. I really liked how it turned out. I really like Jazz's character. She's a very different character, and a lot of people were criticizing this book, and I think that's because it is so different from The Martian, but it still has that same wit that Andy Weir brings to you, and it's just really, really fun. I didn't realize I'd be such a big fan of sci-fi recently, but I've read a lot of sci-fi this year, I feel like. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I can't wait to see what Andy Weir comes out with next. I'm definitely a big fan of his writing. The next I read all through the month. I didn't read them all in one go because I had to wait for them to drop, but I read them all as audiobooks. I did a lot of audiobooks this month. There are 4 books in this, and I can finally get on the freaking bandwagon for Raven Cycle. I've got all 4 books right here. I finally have read them. I now get all the jokes, guys. You can start sending me the memes and I'll understand them now. But a lot of my friends have been like, read Raven Boys, you need to read this, and I read it, okay? I will give one audiobook criticism, and I love Will Patton. I loved him in Armageddon. That's pretty much the only thing I know him from. When he speaks, he has a whistling S. So when he does Raven voice, I can't do it because I don't have a whistling S, but his S is whistle, and I have very sensitive ears to that. Like, I can't even listen to the radio because I will hear the overlying crackle. I'm very, very sensitive, and that bothered the hell out of me. So a lot of people rave and go absolutely nuts over these books. I liked them. I thought they were very good. They were very surreal, kind of feeling magical realism while still actually being kind of a rural fantasy, not really urban fantasy, but rural, because it's in a small town in Virginia called Henrietta, and there's this ley line that's charging lots of kind of magic, and we have Blue, who is the daughter of a psychic, and she lives in a house full of psychics, but she's not psychic, she's kind of an amplifier, and we meet the Raven Boys. The first book really threw me for a loop. I did not expect the big plot twist in it about one of the boys, which if you've read it, you probably know what I'm talking about. I mean, all of the boys kind of have their own plot twists. I do think of the 4 boys that Ronan is my favorite because he has a pet raven and he named her Chainsaw, and I love that. I also really liked Noah because Noah was really the one I was connecting with in the first book, and his entire arc of everything was just insanely and dramatic. I will say a lot of the times I got very confused when reading this. I ended up accidentally like drifting off, and then you'd come back and be like, what the hell happened? I'm so confused as to all these other different perspectives. It's definitely one that I feel like maybe it's better read as a physical book because I did get lost a lot. And some of the plot points I was very confused about, but even so, the prose is so good that I was still addicted to it. I'm glad I finally am on the Maggie Stiefvater train. I can finally start some of the other books that I have by her. I own a lot of Maggie Stiefvater for someone who hasn't read anything by her yet. Well, now I have. Of the 4 books, I do think I liked Blue Lily, Lily Blue the best. I connected a lot with this one. I did think we had a really strong ending. I needed a bit more though, especially dealing with Gansey and Blue and the aftermath of everything. Like, is it okay now? Like, what's going on? Hopefully we'll maybe see more in Call Down the Hawk, because that is now Ronan's storyline going on. So I don't know. Haven't read it yet, so we'll see. That was another thing, is Ronan's, I'll just say Ronan's love interest. While I appreciate it, this might have been just because my brain wasn't connecting so well with the audiobook, I didn't really see any hints of that in the first few books. So it kind of caught me off guard. I still thought it was really cute and I liked them as a couple, but I am confusion a little bit to the build up to it. I'll say that. Come at me if you will. That's just my opinion on how I listen to all these books. Another current duology, but the 3rd book is coming out next month, I believe. I think it's in June that it comes out. But that is My Lady Jane and My Plain Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. These are kind of retellings of Lady Jane Grey, Jane Eyre. So I definitely liked My Lady Jane more than I liked Jane Eyre. They're both very fun, especially, again, as audiobooks. I loved this one so much. I was actually laughing out loud, especially with the horse jokes part. It's really, really funny. If you don't know the story of Lady Jane Grey, she was queen for like, I don't know, I think it was like a week after her cousin George passes away. But in this story, it deals a lot with more shapeshifters, which I did not expect. And it deals with this arranged marriage, and then she has to become queen, and there's Mary Queen of Scots, and we've got the Elizabeth versus Mary scenario. But it's so hilarious, and it looks like a bigger book, but it's really fast to get through because it's just so addictive. I really enjoyed it. With My Plain Jane, we get into some ghost hunting here, where Jane Eyre actually can see spirit. There's a society that in England that goes out and captures spirits, and they're trying to recruit her, but she doesn't want to deal with it. And we also have the character of Charlotte Bronte herself, who is a friend of Jane Eyre, who wants to do the ghost hunting stuff, and she kind of wedges herself into that. I thought this handled the Jane Eyre story in a way better way than Jane Eyre actually goes, which, granted, I haven't read Jane Eyre, but I have seen movies and I have seen adaptations for it. But I always felt really weird about Jane and Rochester. It always irked me in weird ways. So I was really happy how this ended up, and it was very, very, very strange to, you know, let's do ghost hunting with Jane Eyre. Why not? These are so funny. Go read them, guys. I can't wait. The next book is called My Calamity Jane, and I'm excited to see what the twist is for My Calamity Jane. The next several books in a row are all ones that I physically read. We've gotten through the majority of my audiobooks. So next up, I read The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones. Oh my God. So freaking good. It deals with a gravekeeper and zombies and magic fairies, kind of, and a zombie goat. Bone goat, guys, bone goat. I loved this so much. Our main character is so unique. She's a very strong, independent girl who's taken over the gravekeeping business after her father has disappeared, her mother has died, her uncle has also disappeared, and there's, you know, the town guy, I forget what his title is, the guy in charge of the town who pays taxes to the prince. Basically, he collects taxes on everyone. He's constantly trying to boot them out. And then we have this traveling map maker who comes in and just gets roped in and kind of involved. He's actually searching for his family because he was abandoned as an orphan. And so they form this kind of unlikely friendship, end up going deep into the forest where all the zombies come out of in search of her lost father and his lost parents. It has a twist in it that I did predict, but it still was really well done, that you're like, it better be that twist or you'll be mad about it. I loved this. This was so good. I am really excited to read more of Emily Lloyd-Jones. I only have one more book of hers, but I really want to read it and I can't wait for more. This is so good, guys. I read too many good books this month. It was insane. I kind of wish I had more books to kind of bitch about, but I don't. Okay, I kind of do though. So we have Voices by David Elliott. I read this for one of the 24-hour readathons. This is poetry. It's for the final hours of Joan of Arc. And I'm not a big poetry person. There were some points in here that I didn't appreciate. And the whole thing with Joan of Arc is that she is a virgin and, you know, she's hearing the voices of God and stuff, and leads her on this, you know, crazy path to lead the French army. She ends up, you know, being tried for heresy and stuff. I'm saying "and stuff" a lot, I'm sorry. There's a couple points where the imagery that he presents in this irks me the wrong way because of how he interprets virginity. I didn't really like that. I mean, I feel like maybe it was just because of the way it was seen at the times, but because this is his own poetry, I don't feel like it was necessary to interpret virginity that way. Along with her relationship with a sword, it was a very phallic imagery, and it was just a bit obsessive over her virginity and over her womanness. To me, Joan of Arc was in her time, because it wasn't like prevalent there, I feel like she was probably non-binary or possibly trans. And because, especially in like how the confessions are, because you do get snippets of the actual documents that were during her court trial. That's kind of the feeling you get when you think about Joan of Arc's story. Obviously, I'm not going to say she definitely was, but it's kind of how I see her, and the way that David Elliott was portraying this makes it so emphatic on her womanness, on her virginity, on her kind of how she holds the sword. It was a very sexual thing, and I didn't appreciate that very much. I don't know. I don't think it was a good choice to have a male poet write from the perspective of a female, or at least of someone who is probably non-binary in my opinion, but especially if he was just writing as a female, I didn't appreciate that. I do appreciate some of the, here's the sword, so the way I appreciate the typography in it for this, and I like the coming of the flames. There's a bunch of good designs to the poetry, but I just didn't really like it that much. Next up, I read a graphic novel, which was Stranger Things Volume 1. We have The Other Side. This is Will's story inside of the Upside Down. I didn't hate this. I thought it went by really fast considering there's more of these. It goes through the entirety of season 1, and I don't know, it just didn't quite match up with the show, and I'm all about that continuity between media, and I didn't really get that. I can't judge the artwork because I have no sense of that, but it was okay. I didn't hate it, but it just wasn't like fantastic stand out there. Like when when we first saw the first season of Stranger Things, we were all obsessed with it. At least I was. I didn't get that same feel from it as a graphic novel, just from Will's point of view. It also did not go over how he was actually communicating. I really wanted to know how he was able to communicate with the lights and stuff, and it didn't touch on that at all. It was just kind of like, okay, because his mom says, you know, 1 blink yes, 2 blinks no, and so he actually blinks, and I'm like, but how does that work? I thought it was him touching the lights, you know, because he does touch the lights on the wall later, so how did it's not the same method of communication, and it just confused the hell out of me. So there you go. Back to books I really, really love. So I read this one for the reading rush because it covered like all 4 prompts. This is Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. This was released just this year. So cute. It was adorable. It was absolutely adorable. It deals with these 2 rival classmates who are secretly running the business Twitters for their family businesses, and they get into this kind of Twitter war, and people also start shipping them, but they also find out the other one is in charge of this, and they kind of strike a deal to be like, all right, let's go. And they do this Twitter war together. It's kind of this classmates to a little bit of rivals to friends to lovers story, and it has a really good arc between them. I thought it was so freaking cute. The only real criticism I have for this is that it wasn't really explained why her mom did the things that she did. I kind of would have liked a little bit more than that. There was no real repercussion for mom's actions, and I kind of wanted that. I needed that because mom was a piece of shit for most of this book. So yeah, this is just, it's so cute. It's gonna be one of my favorite contemporaries for a long time, I think. If you need a really cute, really fun romance, contemporary romance, pick this one up, guys. It's adorable. I read another graphic novel, and that was Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. This is a cute little graphic novel all about autumn and, you know, fun Halloween times with these two characters who are employees of a pumpkin patch. And the pumpkin patch in this, like, damn, I need that. Like, we have a pretty good pumpkin patch with a corn maze and stuff here that I go to, but it's not near this level, and I need it to be this absolute level. We have these two coworker friends. She's on a mission to help him ask out the girl that he's been crushing on the entire season. It's the last day of the season. They're both about to go off to college, so it is their last season working there. It's just this really cute story of how the shenanigans of the last night of working there together, and I need a sequel, okay? I just constantly, I get attached to these characters, and now I need a sequel to them, okay? So Rainbow Rowell, Faith Erin Hicks, get on that, will ya? Continuing with the readathons, we've got Grim World by Avery Moray. This was a gift from one of my coworkers to me, and I was really thankful that she got it. It's very spooky vibes, but it was kind of meh. It's very, very short, which is why I picked it up for a readathon. I just wasn't really into it. Definitely like middle grade, but borderline YA. I don't really know what to classify it as or what it's actually marketed as. It does say young adult fiction here, but I definitely feel like it's way more middle grade than a YA book. It deals with a kid who gets trapped kind of by a demonic entity. He gets tricked into giving away a lot of his life, and he meets another boy who has also been tricked, and his clock is running out, so they're trying to figure out how to reverse this curse together. His little sister gets roped into helping them. I did appreciate the little sister's role in this. I was really creeped out by the man because he figures out who kind of cursed him, and that man likes hanging out with his little sister and her dolls. So that was super creepy. The whole vibe of the town is very Addams Family with some kind of like Halloween town vibe. Very almost Little Lemony Snicket. It's Grim World. It's this other entire world where everything is very Halloweenish. It's cute that way, but it didn't really do much for me. It was just kind of a meh read. I don't really have amazing things to say about it, nor big criticisms other than that. This shouldn't really be marketed as YA. It's definitely middle grade. Next up, I read an ebook, and actually I read two ebooks, one that's officially out and one that was actually a beta read, but I'm counting it because the book is ready to release now. And that is Hopeless Scars and Shameless Scars by A.L. Williams. Last month I read Immortal Scars by them, and it is their kind of urban fantasy erotic fiction, and which is not normally my genre, but I do enjoy reading Alex writing. Alex is one of my friends on AuthorTube. Go check out their channel. I will link them below. This is more continuing of the story. So last time I kind of was criticizing a bit of how Lucifer was portrayed, but I was figuring that there was going to be more happening in the next book, and that's true. The second book dealt a lot more with Lucifer and the character of Adam, who is a doctor, and it's very timely read because of it deals with a plague. It specifically deals with the bubonic plague coming back into the modern world, but it was just very telling, you know, right now with Corona. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very interesting take on Lucifer. We did see a lot more characterization with him and his past, and how, because Lucifer does have a son who is the character in the first book, it's just interesting to see how much humanity has changed him and his influence and his own exploration of not only his, you know, sexuality, but his characteristics, his personality based on his long time life in the human world. Very interesting take on that. I thoroughly appreciate it. I thought he and Adam are super cute. I really liked the kind of build up, and I really liked the confliction of Adam's character because he comes from a very religious family that kind of shuns him because he's a doctor and not a pastor like his brother. He's ashamed of his own sexuality that he doesn't want to tell his parents, but we have to overcome those things. And that's one thing about Alec's writing that I really like, is that it's very diverse and it shows these different like sexualities, not like this is textbook sexuality. It's very gray in how it's portrayed. So I really appreciated that. Along with in Shameless Scars, we get even more of that. So this is Haley's story and Haley and Gabriel's story. So Gabriel appeared in the first book as an enemy and is no longer that. So it's one of my favorite tropes to have like a villain turned friend. Haley has a lot against Gabriel because Gabriel did physically hurt her in that first book. But now they need Gabriel. Gabriel's hanging around. Gabriel also, there's a lot of conflict because Gabriel ends up staying with her and her roommate Gorman. It's just a very interesting, like, forced roommate situation that of course leads to a bit more tension. Haley is pansexual. She's also into BDSM, and this is where it's like correctly portrayed. We don't have to deal with 50 Shades nonsense. So I thought that was very well done. And then we have Gabriel, who, you know, this is Gabriel's first time in humanity, and it is Gabriel's look into their own sexuality and their own place in this world. We also get a villain who is intersex. Gabriel is also non-binary, and later looking at what asexuality means to them and if that's what they are. I won't spoil what sexuality they fully are, but it's an exploration of that umbrella, and it gives you some good information that I think is really valuable, and we don't actually see it a lot in media today. Like asexuality is this, it's not even like a big umbrella, it's kind of like a scatterboard where you're kind of here or maybe you're a little here, and it's very complicated. And that's like, for me as an asexual, I read this as a sensitivity reader, I appreciated the representation and the exploration there. There you go. So Shameless Scars comes out June 14th. It'll be up for pre-order, I think June 1st. So go ahead and start checking that stuff out if you're into that genre, and you know, go support Alec as well on their own channel, and you can read their stuff. Here we go for another really amazing read. Oh, I loved this so much. This is Zeus Grants Stupid Wishes by Corey O'Brien. This is a nonfiction book, sort of. It explores a lot of different mythology and explains basic creation myths in a very intriguing way. I feel like it's kind of like Drunk History, where you use a lot more, you know, profanity and slang to explain these myths in a very humorous way. I absolutely loved it. I loved the Japanese myth because I am very well versed in Japanese creation myth, and I'm like, I can absolutely verify these sentences as being true. Yep, that's exactly what happened here. So if you need a really fast read, a very fun laugh, but also slightly educational, pick up this book. I am definitely going to pick up Corey O'Brien's other book, which deals with America myth. That's another fun thing. We do get America myth. We get some Scientology, and it's so funny. I was dying. I actually ended up reading half of this book out loud to my mom, and she was dying of laughter. I was dying of laughter. It's great. It's so great, guys. Read this book. We're getting there. I've got like 4 more books to go through. I read so much. Next up, we have A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it is chef's kiss so good. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This also, it does have some mixed reviews, but I'm on the side that loves this. I really enjoyed our main character who has cerebral palsy. Is this the story that also has PCOS? I think also PCOS, which is great, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's actually something that I have, and I'm like, hey, representation. It's so fun. It's such an interesting take on Beauty and the Beast. I don't want to spoil for you guys how this goes, but we have our characters of Ren and Gray. Ren is our prince. Gray is his kind of leader of the guard, but he's the only one left because it's just them in the castle. And then Harper accidentally gets kidnapped, which it is an accident to this world where she now has to pretend to be a princess because there are outside forces going to try to attack this kingdom because now it's vulnerable without real leadership in the past 5 years that this curse has been going on. And it's just so good. I really, really enjoyed this. I already have the sequel. I'm ready to go for it. I'm kind of hoping I'll finish my May reads really fast and be able to read the sequel because I need to read the sequel, especially with that ending. I can't even like really tell you much without spoiling a lot, but I just really appreciated the conflictions that all these characters have, and it was really great. I loved all of the arcs that happened here. I really appreciated. Gray is my boy. I love Gray so much. I'm so worried about Gray. I'm not gonna lie. He's part of the big cliffhanger in this, and I need my boy to be fine, okay? I need him to be okay. Ha! I'm sorry, I'm not being very eloquent at all about this, but I literally can't say much without spoiling it. Then we have my buddy read for the month, which was Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey, and this I actually read with Very Bad Books. I will link her in the description. We have a little video together that you guys can check out for our buddy read, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth there, so I'll give you a brief one here. This is kind of like deals with a private investigator whose sister is magical but she is not, and so she's kind of lived outside of this magic world, but her sister is a teacher at this magical school, and there is a murder that happens that she is called in to investigate by the headmistress, who is determined to be like, this was a murder, but the magic cops are, the wizard cops are like, no, this was, you know, suicide, this wasn't that, but she's determined to be like, no, it was something else. And it was definitely something else. What is it though? Big twists. I loved that this whole time I kept second guessing myself. I was trying to like really find the clues as to who done it, you know, and there's a lot of different angles that this could have taken. There's a really good take on the chosen one trope in this as well. There is so many possibilities of who could have done this horrible crime that it really gets you until you get to the end. You're not quite sure, and then you figure out why it happened, who did it, and I'm really surprised by the ending and how it was handled though. So that one I'm kind of like, I would also like an epilogue. There was no epilogue in this, and we're left with two characters who should have deserved one more bit of a scene than we got. So a little annoyed by that. That's Magic for Liars. Go check out Very Bad Books and my video about our buddy read. Okay. This may be my favorite book this entire month. I don't know. I read a lot of good books this month, but I think this one won. And that is Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzalez. This is a gay Grease retelling, and oh my god, was it perfect. I nearly lost my mind over this book. It actually made me cry at one point, and books don't normally do that, but I did. This is so good. I loved the interpretation of the characters of Grease into this universe. It's so cute. It's so empowering. It's just so good. So our two main characters, Ollie and Will. Ollie is kind of the Sandy and Will is the Danny, and they had their summer fling at a lake, and Ollie is about to move back to California, but his aunt is super sick with cancer, so that's why their family was there to help take care of the kids of his aunt and help them out. And because the aunt is not getting better, they decide to stay longer, so Ollie ends up transferring to Will's school, and it's the exact plot of Grease, but with many a difference. I love the friends that he makes. I love the diversity of the characters that we get, especially because it is a small town. You get that kind of rural southern state vibe. It's just so good. You have so many different plots kind of going on with each of the characters, so nobody's one arc is kind of lesser than the others, except for like Will and Ollie, because obviously they are their main characters. But with all of our side characters, we do get a really good look into them that I feel with the Grease movie you don't get as much. Maybe with Frenchie and Rizzo, but for the others not so much. I appreciated this a lot. I read it all in one day. It's a very quick read. I'm kind of sad that it's not longer because I need it to be longer because I need to see my boys more. I would really like a sequel to this too when they go off to college. I would like that. Sophie Gonzalez. Make that happen. We're down to our last 2 books. The next book I read as an audiobook, and that is An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I have put this on my 2020. I actually read like 3 of my 2020 books this month. I'm very happy about that. I was unsure about this book going in. Not gonna lie. Not a big fan of John Green books, so I was a little scared. How does his brother write? Thankfully, I like his writing more. Sorry. This is a kind of sci-fi. It's like contemporary sci-fi. It's very strange. But we deal with our main character of April who finds a Carl. Well, she names him Carl. She finds a statue and she wants to appreciate the art. She and her friend make a little funny, comedy video interviewing the Carl because they think it's just this one random thing. But oh no, it has blown up and gone viral because Carl statues have appeared all over the world and no one can figure out what's going on. What is this? Is this some kind of art installation? Is this something from the government? Is this something from outer space? We don't know. It's so weird. We gotta figure it out. But April gets thrown into the spotlight as kind of the ambassador for them and arguing that the Carls are a good thing and other people are like Carls are a bad thing, and it kind of touches on that divide that we see in like American politics today, and I really appreciated that. While you kind of hate the character of April, she's a very unlikable person, but it makes a good protagonist because she is so flawed and she has so much to learn. You can't help but keep reading about her. I'm very interested now in the sequel. I'm glad that I'm pretty sure the new book is a sequel to this, because otherwise, what the hell was that last page about? This was really great. I like this a lot more than I thought I was going to. I highly recommend it. I can't wait for the sequel. Can't wait for it. And the final book, my God, I've been filming for so long for this. The final book that I read this month was Comics Will Break Your Heart by Faith Erin Hicks. I read 2 Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks this month. I read this for my owls as well, and this was really, really cute. It's very loosely a Romeo and Juliet retelling. Very loosely, I say. It deals with our main character, Miriam, Mir for short, who is the daughter of kind of a Stan Lee who created these comics called the Tomorrow Men, along with a partner who was something Warwick. I can't remember if David Warwick or if it's someone else. Mr. Warwick, we'll call him. I forgot what the grandpa's name is, but his son David Warwick runs the Tomorrow Men now, and then his son Weldon Warwick is our other character in this. So it is the children of these 2, comic co-authors that there was a big lawsuit between them, and so Mir's side of the family lost everything in that. They didn't really get anything. They're going to make a big Tomorrow Men movie, and they're not getting any royalties or anything for it. There was a big lawsuit way back in the day, but kind of has this cloud over their 2 rival families. So there's your Romeo and Julietness. And then Weldon is this rambunctious troublemaker child who grew up in the Warwick comics and with the Tomorrow Men and in this whole world of big time comics, and he gets sent to this small town in Nova Scotia to chill out because he got in trouble, and so it's kind of his punishment for the summer to go stay with his aunt and uncle who still live there. And the 2 of them kind of meet random happenstance, but then kind of start falling for each other, but it's complicated because their families don't really want them to be careful about it, and then of course things blow up in their face. There's also a really good story with Mir and her best friend and her boyfriend, who is a big jackwad, and I'm very annoyed by that. And then there's also her friend Evan, who has been a longtime friend of theirs and is also slightly in love with Miriam, but kind of gets that they're not going to get together, but they do end up writing a comic together, and it's really cute. So this is kind of a love story for comics as well as the contemporary romance that we get in it. Some points, I'm gonna say, was a little gatekeepy, because sometimes people who love comics can be like, well, you're not a real fan, and there were a few moments of that in here that I was like, cringe. But it's addressed well, especially because Comic-Con features in this, and there's a lot of nostalgia for what Comic-Con used to be, and it's too big with all movies and stars now instead of comics, which I definitely understand, because as someone who goes to a lot of conventions that are specifically a Comic-Con, people aren't actually interested in original comics anymore, and you should be, because there's a lot of great original work out there, including stuff that my sister writes. I'll link her comics in the description. What? Comics Will Break Your Heart is very good. Again, I wanted an epilogue. I needed an epilogue for this. We got a really cute ending, but I wanted a little bit more. I wanted to kind of bask in the cuteness a little bit longer. Contemporaries tend to do that to me. They give you that quick, happy ending, but I'm like, can I just sit in it for a bit and enjoy it instead of you just ending the book like that? Please? Oh boy! That was 25 books that I read this month, guys. That was a lot. I hope I don't burn out from that. I read those. I read a lot of good books. I'm really happy with the books that I did read. Let me know what you guys read in April, if you got to any books. Hopefully you got through some, and you know, they're a great source of entertainment if you are in fact quarantined. I unfortunately am no longer quarantined. I'm going back to work. My leave of absence is over. So back to being an essential worker. Read for me, guys. If you guys like the content that I am putting out there, you can go check out my Ko-fi page and commission me to do stuff, or just to donate $3 here or there to buy me a little bit of sugary sustenance while I go through life to making content stuff for you. That sentence didn't make any sense, but again, it is very hot in here and I'm losing my mind a little bit talking about all those books. So if you have any further questions or comments, put them down below or on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter, and I'll see you next time, cuties. Bye!